Okay, so we'll make a start. So just to lay out the formula for this class, most of the time anyway, if you haven't been before, and I think a couple of you I haven't seen before. So start off with a few minutes, 5 to 10 minutes of me just saying something, an aspect of the practice, a facet or a way into this receptive mindfulness practice that we'll take today. And then a period of meditation. I usually lead about halfway into that period of 40 minutes and then leave you to go, yeah, take it further on your own. And then the last 10 minutes or so, there's just some time for if anyone would like to say something about their practice. It might be from this morning, but it might be from another time. Or if you have questions about the practice. Okay. And practical thing to let you know about, there won't be a class next Monday, the 29th of December. We'll have started the retreat by then, the 5 day retreat that goes on over New Year, online retreat. So the next class after today will be Monday, the 5th of January, well into the new year. So actually, I don't think I've done this before in the years of this class, but I wanted to say a little something about Christmas, approaching Christmas, which can be a very, very mixed experience individually, but it can also, it's not a singular experience. It's not that we all experience the same thing, though there may be things in common. Yeah, you might be with family and it's quite a busy time. You might be on retreat. I think increasingly, I know I think probably the first 10 years of my involvement with the Dharma, I was on retreat at Christmas, which was very nice. You might be working. A lot of people have essential jobs, need to continue through the Christmas period, and you might be alone. You might live alone. You might spend most of that period on your own. So I just wanted to maybe talk about two of these approaches two of these kinds of experiences you might be having. So one is being alone, and one is being with others, with family and friends. So my experience is that it can feel a bit alienating, even if I've chosen to be on my own for that period. It can feel a bit alienating, a bit out of step with the world. And even though most of the world doesn't celebrate Christmas, it can still feel like, well, my world, the world around me, they're all having a great time with lots of people, and I'm alone. So it can bring up loneliness, I think. Um, and that can be, we can experience that as quite unpleasant. But actually, loneliness, I think, is part of what we experience as human beings. And I think with awareness, I think it's helpful not to, well, we can recognize if there's any fear around it, that fear or shame or whatever it is around being alone. Um, so I was in Spain over the autumn for about 10 weeks, and I was on my own for 8 of those weeks, but in a community that I didn't know at all, but living on my own, spending most of my time on my own. And of course, I experienced moments of loneliness within that time. And sometimes it would take a while to catch on that that was what was happening. That was what I was experiencing. But I got interested, used the practice to just get interested in what that experience was like. It's just another experience. Um, Certain sensations, a particular sort of kind of mood that can be identified through physical experiences or sort of mental sensations. And when those experiences were known in awareness. It brought a really quite a sort of tender quality to these quite fleeting experiences. Because being known, when we're aware, when we know what's happening, it brings a kind of intimacy to experience. And that, if you like, it's that intimacy that meets whatever we're experiencing as loneliness or calling loneliness in those moments. And it usually means that it's okay to be with that quality of intimacy with ourselves, can bear with, be with whatever else is happening. And it can be quite poignant. And that doesn't mean that we don't make arrangements to meet friends. We don't have our strategies, and we're aware of what's helpful for us or what's needed to support our practice during particular times. Take part in Buddhist center events. That's can be a really lovely thing to do over Christmas. And Vajrapriya, my husband, and we tend to lead something at the Buddhist center on Christmas Day, which is it's just really a lovely gathering to participate in. So the second thing, just being aware over a Christmas that's full of people, in the midst of people. And it's often, if it's family, it may be people that you don't spend a lot of time with. So there's a potential for conflict, potential for overwhelm. It's helpful to prioritize even small amounts of time to touch base with ourselves. You may feel that you don't have the time or the space for formal practice, but even informal practice, just touching in with yourself. So daily life practice becomes really even more crucial over periods of time when we know that we're likely to not have time for formal practice, be in slightly unusual circumstances. Maybe there's lots of people in our house, or maybe we're in somebody else's space that we're not so familiar with. But make that daily life practice a really sort of vivid part of who you are in these times, in these days. And I'm just going to suggest three really simple ways of doing this. So, firstly, just through awareness of body sensations, simple movements, moving around the space that you're in. So, staying close to home with those movements, even if it's somewhere that's unfamiliar. Actually, your body is not unfamiliar to you. Um, Lifting, stretching, reaching, all these really sort of simple moments when we're doing practical tasks. So we ground awareness in what we're naturally doing. And then secondly, with that grounding, checking in when you remember how is the heart mind in this moment? What's happening, what's going on? Just not to analyze, not to have it, but just to feel into what's happening in the mind, in the heart, in this moment. Really helpful for sort of keeping a thread of awareness going. But with that grounding in both ways, I think it's really helpful. There's a really big area of practice to practice here, which is speech, awareness of our speech, particularly when we're with others and the potential for conflict or even collusion, just going along with things that actually we don't particularly sort of agree with, but we don't know what else to do. I was in a family situation recently, and I've noticed it before, but just noticing it, particularly noticing the value of not speaking, the value of silence, and just sort of giving myself a bit of space so that there wasn't a need to quickly sort of um, say something or keep the conversation going, or so not a silence that's a kind of reactive withdrawal of energy, but it's a space of silence that gives us time to recognize that impulse to speak and to see if that is what's going to be helpful or what's going to bring harmony in that moment, in that conversation. And we can let that impulse rise and see it drop away. Um, it's actually a really, really lovely thing to notice in awareness. It's one of the more sort of subtle things that we can be aware of. But in those moments, particularly with speech, it's very helpful to see that impulse where speech is sort of tied to a need to perhaps assert ourselves in some way. And it's like, oh, just in that space, in that silence, it drops away. Maybe it re-arises a minute later, a few seconds later, and that's okay. That's okay. We just we're tuned in, if you like, to our inner experience, if you like, our inner experience through awareness. With each of these three, but particularly the last one. Okay, I'll leave it there. So if you'd like to set yourselves up to sit, make yourselves comfortable. I'll turn off the recording at this point and I'll post it to YouTube later this morning.